before, but if not, I'm glad you're here now. Today, I wanted to show you a book that I bought, I guess, a few years ago. But I haven't actually sat down to read, and so I thought I would read it with you. This book is called Dinosaur Therapy. So this book is it's kind of like a coffee table book where it's pretty casual. It's comics, and I'm pretty sure every comic is like just 4 boxes, so it's pretty simple. But I thought that we could have a bit of fun just reading the story. So on the front cover, the first dinosaur is asking the other dinosaur, "Do you ever struggle with self-doubt?" And the other dinosaur says, "I don't know." So it's just, I thought it was cute. I generally also just really love dinosaurs, I'll be honest. I was a dinosaur kid, and so when I saw this, wherever I saw it, I immediately knew that I had to have it. Alright, let's open it up. Dinosaur Therapy. So if you do end up picking up a copy of your own, there's more information about the writer and the comics themselves. Let me move myself a little bit. So this is the appropriate, teacher angle. A little nursery story time sort of angle. What do you want to be when you grow up? Says this. I don't even know. It's hard to make out what dinosaurs these could be. I guess this could be a Pachycephalosaurus. Perhaps. I hope I'm still saying that right. It's been a long time since I've been in my dino nerd days. What do you want to be when you grow up? Says the dark blue dinosaur. Happy, says the light blue dinosaur. Okay, so we need to work on lowering your expectations. But you know what? I kind of relate to that right now. The green dinosaur says to the blue dinosaur, "Follow your dreams." And there's a long pause. Your dream is to do nothing, isn't it? Honestly, I'll admit, I have a lot of dreams, yes. But when times are tough, yes, I do often find myself saying, my dream is to do nothing. So I can relate to that. Let's keep looking around. This one says, life's unfair. And the dark blue one says, shouldn't we try to change that? And the lighter blue one says, no, it's better to just accept it and suffer. I think that's a pretty interesting one because I feel like I'm often trying to tell people, I know that's kind of the accepted saying that life's not fair, and so we should just accept that. But to me, life's not fair means life isn't naturally fair, and so us as people, I think we have a responsibility to try and make it fair. Maybe that's just me on my soapbox, but that's how I've always been irked when people just say, like, life's not fair, deal with it. It's like, okay, I accept your reality that life is not fair. I can agree with that. But why does that mean we just give up? Because it'll be the same people that say that also will be like, never give up though. And I'm like, but you're giving up right now. So let's lock in. Let's think about it. Okay. This one says, being a teenager is going to be awesome. Being in college is going to be awesome. Getting a real job is going to be awesome. Oh crap. It's a little weird for me too, since my professional career that I'm seeking is in education. So it is kind of like I'll be in school for the rest of my life, either learning or teaching or both. More likely than not both, but for all intents and purposes, learning and then working. But I do feel like growing up, especially, I was always looking to the next thing and the next thing. I think one thing that is really funny is that I also took myself a little too seriously when I was a little kid. Like, I was so eager to be grown because adult people seemed so professional and I wanted to be professional. And I remember one thing that I didn't like in school growing up was when we had like projects that I guess were obviously trying to be more fun. Obviously, as someone who studies education now, I know that it was probably best practice to have us do activities that were intended to be more enjoyable than taking notes for a quiz or something. But we'd have some projects and I would be so bothered by anything where it got to be a little more like goofy or not necessarily creative. I loved projects that involved a certain level of creativity because that was an opportunity for me to, like, you know, be a teacher's pet and go above and beyond. But some things where it was like more goofy or like more just like fun, I guess, it would always bother me. And I would always say, I can't wait to get to college where everything's more serious and like I can just take the notes and do the test. And don't get me wrong, some of college classes are like that, but especially studying education, there's a lot of classes where we're still doing the goofy stuff. But now that I'm grown, I honestly cannot be more appreciative of the goofy stuff. Oh, okay, this one's really... I love how this is just becoming which ones am I reading over that seem relatable to my life. So this one is also, I do love that the premise, I mean, these are very cute drawings, but so far the premise is much just like two dinosaurs on a landscape and they talk to each other. But it's cute, so I love it. This one says, what is it like being grown up? And the green one says, this is a Dilophosaurus. I know that. You're constantly pretending you know what you're doing. Until eventually, you do know what you're doing. Then something new comes up, and it's back to pretending. This, if I could describe adulthood, at least in I've only been an adult, 2 years now or whatever. Well, I'm on my 3rd year, because you're an adult when you're 18. So I'm on my third year of adulting, and that is so real. Like, I remember, because like I said, when I was younger, I always wanted to grow up and like be professional. I saw so many people in my life that were like professionals, and I was like, I want to be that. But one thing that irked me and made me nervous was the fact that there seemed to be so many things that these adults just knew how to do. Like, as an adult, people knew how to drive, they knew how to open a bank account, they knew all these different things. And I was like, how did you learn all this information? I was like, I keep going to school every day and I still haven't learned half of this stuff. So when is it all going to start dropping? And then you get to turning 18 and realizing, oh, no one's going to show up out of the blue and teach you how to do these things. How do you even call? This is so, like, I think my generation, the biggest joke is, like, there's so many people my age who still don't call their own, like, doctor's office to make their doctor's appointments. Which I'll admit, yeah, for a hot minute there, I was like, oh, goodness gracious, this is, I'm in the trenches. I'm actually gonna have to go book my physical for the year. But I don't think I struggled with that as much as some other people. I've seen people on social media, like, 20 years old having to, like, sit down with their mother to, like, walk them through the steps of making a doctor's appointment. But I think that is so, the vibe is like, okay, you really don't know what you're doing until you've been forced to learn it, and then we just like, okay, now we feel good about it. Learning how to change a tire. Didn't learn how to do that until I was on a road trip with friends, and we got a flat tire in the middle of, the city we were visiting. And luckily, we knew to call someone that was a relative of one of my friends close by. She was able to, like, help show us through, and we learned how to change a tire. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, yes, I could have probably, like, my dad probably could have shown me how to change a tire when I was growing up. Would I have cared to know? No. But hey, now I can say I know how to change a tire. And so it's all those little things where you just slowly start to accumulate. How do I do X, Y, Z? There's an entire section on depression in here, which is such a hard pivot. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a good one. We're in a therapy session now, so things are getting very serious. We're in the depression section. Stop comparing yourself to others, says the therapist Dinosaur. I try. But then I end up comparing myself with the me that could have existed if I made better choices. And that's way worse. That's honestly, so many people I think talk about how we compare each other and like don't compare yourself. Especially social media is a big thing where you have access to so much of people's lives that you really can try to like go for tit for tat and compare every little part of your life to someone else. And I don't necessarily think that's the hardest part. At least it wasn't for me. So maybe this isn't your experience. But for me, it's never been about like comparing other people like to myself. I know that there's a lot of people who I feel like have had negative reactions to my life or have been almost jealous of where I've been, and I can tell that maybe they were comparing themselves to me, but I never had the urge to do that with other people. If anything, I've always just considered, okay, but where would I have been if I, studied harder on the SAT and got like a really good SAT score, you know what I mean? Like, or like, what if I had just gone that step above, you know what I mean? Like the SAT example I bring up because I'm privileged to be a pretty decent test taker, or at least I was at the time. I feel like I probably would not be anymore. But like K through 12, I was a very good test taker, So I didn't really study for SATs and like college entrance exams. I just did them. And in my head, I was like, okay, people usually take them once or twice. So I'm going to take one cold turkey just off of whatever I've learned. And we'll see. And I did them. And I did better than, a lot of people. Did I get like amazing scores that like anyone should like win a trophy for? No. But I got pretty good scores, and they were scores that like the schools that I wanted in my mind I knew would be good for. So I just went with it. Now, does part of me always kind of think, okay, but what if I studied as much as XYZ person I know who studied? Because while someone else probably had to study really hard to get to the score that I got, what if I studied as hard as them, and then how far would I have gone? So then you start playing with those things in your head, and now I'm like, could I have gone to Harvard? Which is such, it is a whole other tangent to go on of when people say things like that, because then I go like, I know I would never have wanted to go to like Harvard or something. People talk about, getting into the Ivy League or getting into your top 25 school, but that's so neglectful to the fact that like you should really align with the school you end up going to, like on a personal level. And you might not personally align with any school that is in the top 25 universities. I mean, I have one friend who goes to an Ivy League school, and the reason I am so happy for her isn't even necessarily because it's an Ivy. I think that's amazing, and don't get me wrong, I give her flowers for that, but I'm more so happy for her because she aligns with the school. Like, the school makes sense for her, and whether that school was like a top 25 Ivy League school, or if it was the same exact school but like a state school, or a safety school that everyone kind of just dismisses, I think either way that was the school she was meant to be at. And so it just so happens that was an Ivy. So anyway, what were we talking about? Okay, we're got time for a couple more. Okay, we're in okay, happiness section. This is a great place to end off. Oh, this is the exact same vibe that we just talked about. Do you ever feel nostalgic? Not for the past, but I do sometimes yearn for the futures we could have had. I mean, and that's a reasonable response to have, I think. And I think that's good for like goal setting. That's something I do a lot. I do think about the future. Not necessarily the future that we could have had, but the future that I think is still possible and within our grasp. I think that's okay. This is such a brief one, but it's so relatable because I feel like I suffer from this mind virus. Okay, here we go. I feel happy. That's good. Yes, good. But also suspicious. Yeah, if I'm ever feeling idle and feeling like there's nothing to stress about or nothing going wrong, suddenly I'm dreading life, and as much as in the trenches of whatever I'm doing, I'm so like ready to be over it deep down. And at least I've grown enough to recognize this in myself, as much as like even in the deepest moments where I'm like, oh, I'm so bogged down and I have so much to do and it is taking such a toll on me. I've got to the point where I can also, even in those deep moments, recognize, but if I had nothing going on right now, I'd be miserable. Like if I was completely happy and nothing was going awry, I'd be miserable. So at that point, is it even truly happiness? Probably not. So that's so real. Oh my gosh, I was literally just telling someone something similar to this. Okay, here we go. And the dinosaur's talking to a turtle. Or is that a turtle or a tortoise? Who's to say? life is meaningless, that just means we have to create meaning for ourselves. That used to make me sad. But now I'm happy I get to create it with you. Someone was recently telling me about, well, they weren't recently telling me. They have told me in the past, but they just happened to have made a social media post about it. That they ended up going to their like dream school. But then they got there and they realized it was not what they really wanted. And now they're kind of like, man, what's next? And so, I mean, we've talked about it at length, but when I saw the post that was most recent, this just thought came to my mind, was like, when your world comes crashing down, it's the opportunity to rebuild the perfect world for you. And the same goes, another big philosophy in my life is that kind of life is meaningless. More so, the angle I take on things is nobody is special. And what I mean by that is, if you're having a thought right now, someone else, I promise, is having the same thought. If you've just had an embarrassing experience happen to you, I promise someone else has had that happen. If you feel like the world is, let's say, here's like a more positive example of it that really I try to drive home, especially in the current political climate. I say, if you feel like the world is terrible and like it's full of this awful, and you're like seeking the motivation to go to that rally, that political activist rally, we'll say that's an example. But you're like, if I go, I'm just one more person, like, does it even matter? Maybe you've never been before. And this is the example I always give is, well, if you go, then statistically speaking, you're not special. Meaning, if you're willing to get out of your bed and go try the new thing, go to that rally, and for the first time, that means there's other people who are also not special who are going to go to their first rally. Or if you're, not sure if it matters to have that extra person canvassing and knocking on doors. Well, if you go out and knock on doors, there are other people who were also on the fence, but then will eventually go and knock on doors. And of course, there are going to be some people who don't. But, if you know in your heart that you're making that decision, I promise you there are other people who can then make that decision. So that's one of the ways that's kind of my spin on the whole life is meaningless thing, is like, we're not special. So if you want to have an impact, just do something and other people will do it based on the fact that I promise you we're not exactly original people. We're all kind of copying each other. We all mimic each other. We all are informed by similar experiences, the same kind of like greater societal references and pop culture and general mainstream culture. So, like, don't feel so tied down by, do I have impact? Because I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, you're so special and important, and so yes, that's why you have impact. Now, I do believe everyone has a sense of uniqueness to them, because I think we are all like different. We're like passcodes, where it's just like different combinations of the same 26 letters and like nine digits, but 9 or 10 digits. But that's still an element of uniqueness. So we're not special. None of us have special characters. We're all made of the same kind of A through Z, 0 through 9, but we're also unique in how we put those numbers together. And so there's kind of a duality there that I'd like to point out. And so that kind of, this little just blip of like, we get to create the meaning of life together in the way that we arrange everything. So, what's so funny is that, so this is Dinosaur Therapy, but the other book, which I guess we'll see another time, is Dinosaur Philosophy. And yet, I feel like I've gotten very philosophical in a very short amount of time. Let me find one more. Okay. I'll leave this on a last note just because I know I have something to say for this, but I'll try to keep it brief. useless. I quit everything I try. That doesn't mean you're useless. That means you haven't quit on finding the thing that's right for you. You know, to sum it up, that old saying, which I don't even know who originally said it, but I feel like it's a poster in like every gymnasium in elementary school. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You never know what's meant for you until you try it. That's always what I tell people when I'm recruiting for my club. You know, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by trying this thing. You know, worst case, it doesn't work out, and that's that. Best case, you find lifelong connections, learn skills, find your passion. So, on that note, I'll leave it there. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Do take care. Be kind to yourself. Just keep being you. Keep being your awesome self. But yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.